Okay, we're off and rolling. It's Christina and I have Sue here, and we're going to do one of the COVID-related coaching sessions. And we just had a quick little chat. I said, stop. We'll turn on the recording and we'll get this down, because what you were starting to lead into is definitely a COVID-related thing and what's showing up for you. So give me a bit of the preamble. I haven't decided which process move to apply to it, so I want to just hear a little bit more, and then I'll get a sense of how to proceed.
Okay. Well, I was talking about, or I did talk about how things are different in the southern part of the U.S. And I guess because I'm on an island, we've gone from having no problems to then all of a sudden everything's coming in. And people are having attitudes about wearing masks and doing the social distancing, especially on the beach. And so that part is scary. And then you go into what else is going on and how all this violent racial anger has gotten out of hand. And I have two young people who are African American who had major anxiety attacks yesterday. They're worried about their brothers, they're worried about their sisters, they're worried about themselves. And, you know, I'm a child of the 60s and the 70s, and I feel like we have gone so far back. So I find that very disturbing. Being a person who has a pulmonary issue that got positive news on March 13th, which that I had a reactionary thing going on, but the negative thing was, but now we have COVID, so you can't do anything or go anywhere. And I can tell you, Christine, the first 2 weeks I was scared to death. I just didn't know what to expect. And I think those first 2 weeks for everybody was very scary. And then I got a little bit more comfortable with, okay, so I can have my groceries and I can stay inside. But I'm in a lucky situation because I'm near the ocean. So that's very peaceful, and I can go to the ocean when I need some peace from the anxiety. Everything in my life. And well, I guess it's affected everybody. I just don't, it's just, you know, I'm back into why can't we be friends? You know, in the beginning, or maybe, you know, and there are a lot of people that are doing very positive things, but the negative stuff that's coming out is just horrible.
And I think I know how we're going to enter in.
Okay.
With that, the negative things that they're doing are just so horrible. So I'm going to just screen share one sec.
Oh, I'm glad.
Okay, we're off and rolling. It's Christina and I have Sue here, and we're going to do one of the COVID-related coaching sessions. And we just had a quick little chat. I said, stop. We'll turn on the recording and we'll get this down, because what you were starting to lead into is definitely a COVID-related thing and what's showing up for you. So give me a bit of the preamble. I haven't decided which process move to apply to it, so I want to just hear a little bit more, and then I'll get a sense of how to proceed.
Okay. Well, I was talking about, or I did talk about how things are different in the southern part of the U.S. And I guess because I'm on an island, we've gone from having no problems to then all of a sudden everything's coming in. And people are having attitudes about wearing masks and doing the social distancing, especially on the beach. Um, and so that part is scary. And then you go into what else is going on and how all this violent racial anger has gotten out of hand. And I have two young people who are African American who had major anxiety attacks yesterday. They're worried about their brothers, they're worried about their sisters, they're worried about themselves. And, you know, I'm a child of the 60s and the 70s, and I feel like we have gone so far back. So I find that very disturbing. Being a person who has a pulmonary issue that got positive news on March 13th, which that I had a reactionary thing going on, but the negative thing was, but now we have COVID, so you can't do anything or go anywhere. And I can tell you, Christine, the first 2 weeks I was scared to death. I just didn't know what to expect. And I think those first 2 weeks for everybody was very scary. And then I got a little bit more comfortable with, okay, so I can have my groceries and I can stay inside. But I'm in a lucky situation because I'm near the ocean. So that's very peaceful. And I can go to the ocean when I need some peace from the anxiety. Everything in my life. And I guess it's affected everybody. I just don't, it's just, you know, I'm back into why can't we be friends? You know, in the beginning, or maybe, you know, and there are a lot of people that are doing very positive things, but the negative stuff that's coming out is just horrible. And
I think I know how we're going to enter in.
Okay.
With that, the negative things that they're doing are just so horrible. So I'm going to just screen share one sec.
Okay.
What I'm going to get down, and just bear with me for a bit because it's going to feel uncomfortable as we get all this done.
That's fine.
And, you know, this isn't always about taking away discomfort. Sometimes things are resistance and sometimes they're wisdom. So just because we're having discomfort doesn't mean that we need to get rid of it. It might be a wise thing to be having.
And that's what I said to the one young lady. I said, she said, I never expected, I don't, you know, she had never had an anxiety attack with this. Her mother, I did talk with her, had called me, and she's a friend of mine. And she said, I sheltered my kids. They were all in diverse society, and now they're afraid.
Let's go back to these horrible things. It might be exactly what you're focusing in on, right? Which is your friend and her children and what they're encountering and their fear. Is that the first thing that comes to mind when you're saying these horrible things?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right now.
Okay. So
2 days ago, it would have been something different.
Right. No, we just focus what's most supremely up in the now. So, okay. So let's get some of the language down. So the thing that's presenting itself is, okay, violence. And in particular, racial violence.
Racial violence.
Yeah.
But also guns in a government building.
Okay.
Because the governor is saying people have to wear masks or shutting down.
Yep. Okay, hon, I got that one. Guns in a government building. As you poke into the things that are most troubling, what else do you pinpoint?
specifically reactions to me when I'm in public wearing a mask.
Okay.
And the other thing that is connected with Sophie, whenever I was going to a veterinarian, I would call beforehand and say, this is my situation. I can't sit in the lobby. And they would take me to a separate room. Maybe. You know?
Yep.
And so it's, so sometimes people were sensitive to it, but when I finally had to take her to a bigger hospital and there were tons of people inside, and I had done the prep, but the person I had done the prep with wasn't there. So the prep being, I have a mask and I have this, the pulmonary fibrosis, and I can't be among a whole lot of people. She had left for the day, so they didn't have that. So I came in and there's like 20 people in the lobby, and I'm feeling like I am making a spectacle of myself as I'm, and so that's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, well, you're saying you should be treated differently or better or whatever. So anyway, once everybody knew me and they knew Sophie, it was okay. But that's the kind of thing that is uncomfortable. As far as one of these people we're talking about. And so the ugliness is still, and it became more apparent as people from other states were able to come onto the island, or you know, people who were coming on vacation, and their attitude is they're on vacation, so they don't want to have to deal with negative stuff, I guess, or have somebody tell them, well, you should wear a mask when you go into the supermarket.
Okay.
And people getting kind of crazy about that.
Okay. So people not having to uh, deal with, how would you phrase it? People not having to deal with reality?
Reality, or not dealing with reality.
Yeah. People not having to deal with reality. Yeah. So this whole avoiding reality thing, or not wanting to look at it, or don't mess up my day, don't mess up my situation. I'm here to have, you know, a good time. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, very good. So I just brought up, as you saw, the Orphan Rescue template, and I moved this into the trigger situation. So just because we're doing this doesn't mean that there's not stuff happening in the now.
Right.
However, probably some of the reason why certain things in the now are really getting to you is because they're connected to some other things. So I put your particular words and into the trigger section, because that's kind of the now and the various things happening. And it was very precise language, which it always is. So I'm just going to reflect that back. Before I do, and if, you don't have to say it, but if you're okay saying what your current age is, or I can just put now in here.
64.
What's the best thing about being 64?
The Beatles. No.
Cool. Yes. When I'm 64. Now you can sing it.
Yep, I did that whole day.
I used to figure skate to that song. Yeah. Cool.
So I'm feeding myself. Nobody's feeding me anymore. But anyway.
I got the joke.
So, okay, the best part of...
But there's good things about being 64 compared to other times in life. So what's the best thing about being 64?
I think there's like a wisdom, an understanding that life is always changing. And when you've gotten to this age, you know that you can survive.
Mm.
And then when you throw the COVID in, though, you're out of control.
Okay, we'll take that out for a sec.
Okay.
Um, uh, let's even go before, because you were 64 before this hit. So that's a wild card that's thrown in that kind of gets it wonky. So I want to go into, yeah, because I want to anchor you into a place, and we may go to future self, which I'm doing with a lot of people in this situation, because understandably our now selves are got some shaky stuff going on given the situation, because it's so still unknown and in process. So prior to COVID, so go around your birthday, right? So
Yeah.
so I have wisdom. I understand life is always changing. I know I can survive through things.
And flexibility.
Okay.
I think flexibility is a big part of people having had experience in life.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also people seeing, okay, there's some problems here that we need to respond to. Not we're going to go party until 1999. You know, that's not. There's a responsibility that's there, and I guess that comes with 64 too.
Okay. Well, I'm also hearing too that there's, you have like a historical vantage point, right? So, because you have been through, and it's, fascinating working with people with all sorts of different ages. And I'm certainly getting appreciation too as I work with people a bit older than me anyway. um, uh, what does come with age. And I'm being taught through this process, working with people older than me, about what profound gifts lie in that process. So I'm hearing that in you too. How would you sum up this thing about, having been through some stuff, having lived through different historical events? Is that like just having historical perspective or something, or
Well,
compared to people who are younger?
as a child of the 60s and the 70s. So I think that part, when you're looking at the violence, and we were so strong on working with the peace, and I think we had made progress there. And now
Okay, I'm going to stop it there because I'm just harvesting the good part of it.
okay.
So I put child of 60s and 70s. You have experience with heightened historical events, right?
Exactly. Being around when what's the college?
Kent State.
Kent State, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and Martin Luther King's walk.
Assassination. Oh, walk. Wow. Yes, of course.
My mother, who was very liberal, she grew up outside of New York City. My mother and my father, right after they got married, had to go to Selma, Alabama, because that's where he was stationed. And she stood up against a lot of the racial stuff. And one example is that she was in line at the motor vehicle agency, and there were a lot of African American people in front of her, and they kept trying to get her to move to the front of the line, and she wouldn't do it. So that was, I think, a beginning point, the 50s. That was even in the 50s, as we were growing to be open to differences, diversity, all of that. So as I am at 64, I'm a person who embraces the diversity. I like seeing diversity and seeing us working together. And that was happening, or is happening. And actually, it is happening. You know,
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. So,
Okay.
so that's, again, we're just the best part of being it. So I put child of 60s and 70s, that experience, and then also your mom back in the 50s, right? So
Right.
just seeing that as a role model.
Right.
Okay, so now that we've got that, I always like to anchor the best thing about being the current age, because we're going to go in here and the ages can get confusing, because different aspects of yourself as we're doing this will be evoked. And so if I need to, I can go 64-year-old self, boom, right?
Right.
I'm also going to put, have you done any work with the future self?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll put the future self out there. Do you know how old she is? Where is she out in time? And we can always access one in the moment if we need to, so
Well,
don't
I don't
worry.
want to admit that she's 66.
Okay, 2 years out. Hey, that's okay. Those are two important years. Yeah. So
Um,
that's good. So we've got one out there. We've got a state of consciousness we can access that's beyond this heightened 2020
right,
summertime. Yeah.
right.
And if need be, we can go to future self if we need to, if you need another stretch in time there. But that's good to know you've got an anchor that's 2 years out. Okay. Okay, hon, I think we got everything we need. And now we're going to go on in.
Okay.
So where we're going to go on in is here. I already have a sneaking suspicion where we're going.
Okay.
So I'm going to reflect back what you said, and then there'll be somewhere that you're taken to in the past. And it's probably something specific for you. So you will be situated somewhere, and we'll go, that's the orphan. So we'll go work with that orphan. Okay, so this is what I'm going to reflect back. So my words for this are, it's an interesting cocktail of emotions and sensations. So what we haven't got to is sensations. So as I reflect these things back to you, tell me how that's feeling in the now. So when in the now in 2020, when you're witnessing the racial violence, the guns in the government building, the reactions to you in public with the wearing of a mask, this whole thing about being taken to a separate room, misunderstandings about special treatment, and people not wanting their reality ruffled. So as you're seeing that in the now, how is that making you feel? What are the emotions? What are the body sensations?
Some of it I recognize, I remember, but today what hit me was Melvin Floyd's brother was talking and said, "No one's listening to me."
Mm.
And that has been a trigger for me of, I may say something, but nobody's listening to me. Or in this situation,
I'm going to stop you. Sorry. So when this stuff is happening, when you're listening to him and he's saying no one is listening to me, and as you're watching TV and you're seeing what's happening and the guns in the government building and out and about wearing the mask and what happened at the vet's office, what emotions are you feeling and what is your body doing?
my body is kind of trying to pull back.
Yep.
There's a definite hurt feeling going on in the heart.
Mm.
There is a fear of this seemingly uncontrolled violence and where that's going to take us. And I can say that people had been talking to me about getting a gun to protect myself. Well, Christina, you know me well enough that if I had a gun, I'd shoot my toe off. No, I am not the person to have a gun. But that's that fear.
Okay, so fear. So, okay, excellent. I got what I need.
Okay.
Okay, so now with that, Now, you're welcome to focus on a spot in the wall or close your eyes or whatever you feel comfy doing, but I'm just going to reflect this back and just know it'll be a little challenging. That's okay. We're safe. We're here in Zoom in front of each other. So I'm going to reflect this back. Where else have you felt the same interesting cocktail of emotions? Where was there racial violence with nobody listening to me? People saying nobody's listening to me. Where are there guns in a government building? Where is there wearing a mask? Where is there separate rooms and special treatments? Where are people not wanting to have their reality interrupted? Where are you pulling back? Where is your heart hurt? Where is this fear of, my God, this is escalating? Where is it going? Where does this take you back to in time? Where else have you felt the same interesting cocktail of emotions, Sue?
Um, some in my teens,
Mm-hmm.
uh, when the civil rights um, was very strong. The civil rights, what's the term I'm looking at? Movement were very strong. And I was in a public high school, and I was one of the ones that was liberal. And people just, and I didn't keep my mouth shut. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so,
Okay, hon, definitely. We got one there. We're going to
okay.
go. So, and you said, you led me to believe there might be another place too. You said in my teens, and where else?
Home,
Okay.
um,
Aw.
not, it was just, you had two things going on during that time. You had the civil rights movement and you had Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were agendas that people had.
Mm-hmm.
And um, for me, I remember I was in a church group and there was a young black guy that was interested in me and I was interested in him, and my father went crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, where's this coming from? Anyway, um, and then of course the arguments across the dinner table between my brother, who was draft age, um, and dad, and over time they've been able to come to an agreement about it that, yeah, it really was a messed up situation. My dad and my mom were very liberal as far as the racial thing, except dad never knew what I was going to bring home, was his comment, you know.
Mm-hmm.
um,
So it
but
kind of shifted a bit when it came down to his little girl. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't know that, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
just walking into it. Um, and the listening to me was also a lot at home. I
Mm-hmm.
was a middle child, and I might open up my mouth and, you know, I didn't, you feel like you don't count. And I guess that's part of how I'm feeling when I'm triggered, that
Yeah.
I count.
Why that particular thing really gets you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So I'm guessing these are the same era, the same years, right? Your teen years. And there's some stuff going on at school and some stuff going on at home. So two different environments. Okay. And they've
And,
got, I trust that they've got a different nuance to them. So we're going to rescue both of those locations.
well, and even as a very little girl, I would say
Mm-hmm.
nobody's listening to me.
Ah, okay. That's okay. Good. How old is she?
She's like 3.
Okay, honey. Yep. Thank you for being specific. Okay. How about the teens? How old are you there when the
I
stuff's going on in high school and your brother in Vietnam and you dating the guy or wanting to date the guy at least from church?
guess Jamie's 3 years older than me, so it was probably from 12
Mm-hmm.
to, well, until I went away to college, so 12 to 18.
18. Yeah. So you're adolescents.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is an example of a double rescue. So we've got a child orphan and an adolescent, a teenager orphan. Yeah. Ooh, just got goosebumps. Usually I do the older ones first because sometimes the older ones want to come along and help the younger ones. So yeah. And also that's the way that it came out, and I trust the way that it comes out too. So, okay, so load up your 64-year-old self, and she's going to lead the way. And we're going to start with the teenage you in the public high school. And so where is she as you're going backwards in time and finding the young you in the public high school? Where do we go? Are you in a hallway? Are you in the classroom where you're standing up and you're getting guff from people as you're standing up? Is it outside the school? There's some sort of incident that happened. Where is she?
Well, there was a clique, and I didn't fit into the clique. So there would be nasty things going on in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
My most traumatic experience, I would say, is probably about 15. And I was in my biology class with a young female instructor. There were kids in the back that were talking about how I was so ugly that I would never have a date, and I would never have this, and I would never have that. And it went on for the whole class, and she didn't do a thing to stop it. So that's where I felt very different.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a 64-year-old person, those people that were talking like that have had a very different life.
Okay, you're already doing it. So perfect. So go there, go to that biology class.
Right.
And I'm right there behind you, and you're showing up, and we're going to freeze frame everybody, which means the only person that's going to be left conscious is your 15-year-old self. And everybody around her, the ones taunting in the back, and the young female instructor in front, and all those onlookers, everybody's frozen except for you. And it's not every day that these two women, oh, I forgot to plug in my computer. Hold on one sec, it's giving me the, phew, I got it in time. Have that crash. Sorry about that. I forgot to, in my haste of getting set up this morning, I forgot to stick in the power cord.
Part of that digital visioning and stuff.
There are so many cords in this setup. Yeah. Okay. And I just recently moved, so I'm
Yeah,
hauling stuff from home and this and that. Things are a little disjointed. Okay, beautiful. So you're just going to introduce yourself to your 15-year-old, right? So you're showing up, me from her perspective, these two old ladies are showing up into her biology room, right? So the first thing we have to do is you have to introduce your time traveler. You have to introduce yourself to your 15-year-old. So what do you want to say to her? Who
well,
are you?
I will be Sue, older Sue.
Yep. So say it direct to her. Hi, honey, I'm older Sue.
Hi, honey, I'm older Sue. And although things are hard right now, you have an amazing life coming to you because of your differences and your ability to speak out. And you'll be growing. You just wait a couple more years and you go to college and your life's going to change. And these petty people will not matter to you anymore.
And younger Sue, you may already be getting this. Hi, I'm Christina. I'm what's called a coach in the future. So I'm an ally and an aid. We're here because you're super important. Your older self is my client, and there's stuff going on out there in the future in 2020, which has alerted us to that you're here. And in a way, you're kind of stuck in time. Everybody else in this room has progressed, but you've been stuck in a pocket of time reliving this situation because it's been so painful. So first off, we want to say to you, we're sorry it took us so long. We didn't know that you were stuck here in pain and in trouble. How does she respond to us showing up? Does she understand who we are?
Sue's very smart
Mm-hmm.
and intuitive, so yes, she
Yeah,
does.
she gets it. She probably got it even when you were saying it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I didn't need to pipe up. Although it's important to say we're sorry.
Yes.
Uh, so keep going. See what she wants to say in response to your soothing thoughts.
Well, the thing about the racial injustice that's happening now at 64 was also happening back when I was 15. And I was one of those people who was very liberal and just took everybody for what they were. And because I had that flexibility, I met very many fascinating people.
Mm-hmm.
So to her, where yes, right now it's hard, and sometimes you're walking down the hall singing Elton John songs at the top of your lungs, you know, the right people will be hearing you, and you will make a difference.
Mm.
And some of what the angst and the stuff that you're going through right now is because you're different.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's not easy to be different.
no, it's not easy to be different. And you will become more comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, some of what's going on at 15 has nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a class thing. It's just has nothing to do with you. Plus, the women's liberation was coming at that time too. So obviously I was a Bella Abzug fan. And I didn't have Barbie dolls because my mom didn't think we should have unrealistic body.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just on the side. So to give her back that at 75, I gave her at 18, I gave her a copy of Our Bodies Ourselves as if she needed that. But that's where we were back then. So everything was open. Everything was open. And we did make a difference. And if now, when we're 64,
for right now, don't go to the now. We'll come to that at the end.
okay.
So right now, just deal with this time back there, the 15-year-old. Yeah. At the end of it, it'll make sense, and we'll tie the bow on it about how it connects to the now then. Yeah.
The other thing that was tough when I was 15 was that my brother went away to school. He went to Vermont. So where I kind of had a liberal buddy,
Mm-hmm.
he was gone.
Lost an ally.
Lost an ally and a leader. So, but I'm going to be okay.
So, okay, good. And maybe even recognize the pain of that. Say, honey, like him going away was a big deal.
Oh yeah, it was a big deal. And another listening thing, you tried to call and talk about what you're going through, and You never heard back. And the reason you didn't hear back was his girlfriend said, oh, she's just going through stuff, leave it alone. Anyway, so but so there's an independent strength that developed,
good.
that you had to rely on yourself to take care of yourself, both emotionally, obviously physically. And 18 is coming soon.
So even though this is super hard, in the bigger picture, it does serve you.
Yeah.
And you recognize how challenging it is for her, but you're giving her the bigger picture.
Right.
Excellent. How does she respond?
She's excited about 18. She processes the gaining independence and being independent, but still dealing with not nice people at school. That was very hard. And what I can say to her is high school is a very strange time. Middle school is a very strange time. And then people are very different as they grow up and become adults and realize some of this stuff was just stupid.
Okay, so that's part of the message here that you're sharing too, is like people grow up and change.
And change for more acceptance, because
so things actually improve, right? So their consciousness shifts, their awareness grows, they break away from their patterning from their backgrounds, and they become their own authentic selves. And some of that, I'm hearing you say, like a lot of that process is really good. People wake up.
Right.
Okay.
People wake up and realize that, no, it's not a smart thing to go driving down the street and with a or mailbox, just because. And those are the people that are making the comments about you, and they have a very different kind of future.
Okay. Yeah.
So
you're catching them in a moment in time, and there's an evolutionary track here that does unfold. And she was kind of ahead of the curve, right? Yeah. And It's tough to be ahead of the curve till people catch up and shift, and the society makes some changes.
And then there was also a naivete that I had, and I still have it now. But it was like, I was in social studies class and we were talking about Karl Marx, and I raise my hand and say, is he related to the Marx Brothers? And I had no idea. That was a perfectly fine question. And I got a smile from the Mr. Dwyer. It was funny, but anyway, so I would come out with these things, and then people would be going, what's she doing? So, anyway.
So maybe in there is a soothing thought of, that it's okay to be a person. It's okay to not understand everything. You're 15 years old. These are super huge issues. And, you're probably not trained for them in school, let alone your home. So how are you supposed to know these things?
Right. It was a very different time. Very different time. Parenting was different too.
See how she's responding, and now we get to offer the rescue, which means she may want to just continue along her timeline, right? The way she is, and that's fine. There's been some interaction here and some emotional support, and that may be all she needs, and she wants to just keep on trucking. Or she's like, no, I'm ready to jump this. She wants to timeline jump here. And so then it becomes, where does she go? She can come to you in 2020, or maybe the future self, or maybe somewhere else. We'll negotiate and figure out where the right place is for her. So I guess the first question, does she want to just stay there along her own timeline?
No.
Okay. And we're in the midst of doing some rescues. Maybe for now, does she want to come along on these rescues?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that. And then her and the other orphans that we pick up along the way will figure out where their home is. Okay. Okay, 15-year-old, jump on in. We're going to zip over to your home. So now, as we're doing this, Sue, you're going to take her along to your home. I'm going to follow along behind. I'm going to collapse down this biology class.
Okay.
Okay. And I've got a wonderful crew that helps me do this, my little shamanic crew. Friend of mine, Ian, who's passed away, who's an amazing construction worker. He just loves to show up to do demolition. So Ian's showing up and his boys, and they're the demolition crew, and they're demolishing down this biology class and the remnants of those students and that instructor, because all those people have moved on. It's just ghosts in a way that are here.
Right.
And so he's taking care of that, collapsing it down, ripping that apart, stomping that down, dismantling, taking it, and it's turning into a little black hole, and it's just collapse, never to return to again, done.
Yeah. And actually, once I got into college, I didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
I got into college and I was the one that did presentations and just.
Okay, so even this 15-year-old, honey, you can't go back there even if you wanted to, because that biology class, you're kind of stuck with us. So now let's go over to the home. Thank you, Ian. Stand by. There might be some more collapsing I need your help with. So now we're going to go to your childhood home. And 15-year-old, we might be going somewhere else. So I'm going to go to 64-year-old Sue. Sue, where do we go in the home?
Now?
Yeah, now we're going to go to the home back then. And there was the black boy that you were interested in from the church group. And your brother's being drafted, and your brother and your dad are going at it. And your dad has these liberal views, but not so much when it comes down to who you're dating.
Right.
Is it in the living room, in the kitchen? Where do we go?
Oh, okay. Kitchen is where the arguments would go about. The kitchen is probably where most of that stuff.
Okay. The kitchen's the place. Okay.
Table.
So we're coming into the kitchen table, and there's the three of us, yourself, myself, and the 15-year-old. We're materializing there. Now, to begin with, we're going to, with the exception of yourself in the personal home, we're going to freeze mom, dad, brother, whoever else might be there, the TV, whatever's happening. We're going to freeze everything except for your 15-year-old self. Same thing, we have to explain who we are. So you take the lead and tell her. She's an intuitive girl. So
here I am again. I'm Sue. And I remember you when you were Susie. I am 64. And I know that you are about 15 or 16, and you're having your first relationship where somebody really cares about you and is interested about you. And the argument that came up with Dad was I was taking a 2-part class with the church, and Ken Rosewall was playing tennis and he needed ball girls. And my dad thought I should give up the church thing, especially because there was a black guy that I was interested, we both were interested in each other. And I got the whole lecture of, what are you going to do when you have kids? And these people are treated like this and that, you know. And I was just about the present, and it was okay. So I'm going to say to her that it's okay.
Okay, good.
To have those feelings.
Very good.
And it was even better that you stood up and you got to stay in the church group, and now you weren't the ball girl for Ken Rosewell, but that really didn't matter to you.
So you're basically saying, atta girl, like, good for you, kid. At 15, you were able to stand up to your dad. Yeah. And as women, we can say to her, first off, isn't it delightful that this boy liked you? Yay, right? And yay that you liked him. That's perfectly natural
Right.
and wonderful and lovely and awesome.
Yes.
You
And
didn't do anything wrong.
no, and it was all a head thing. I mean, we were very intrigued by each other's ideas.
Ah,
What's better
yeah,
than that?
yeah.
Uh, Especially during that age, because I was on that cusp. you know,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, it's
And
a really precious time. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that was cool.
Okay, so you're just like delighting in allowing her to see an older person's delight at what she's experiencing
Right.
instead of judgment or concern.
Yeah, because she was okay,
Yeah.
and she was building herself. And
Anything else you want to? What does she say? What are her yeah buts? What is she hurt by? This must be very confusing to have these liberal values touted so strongly, so much so that she's defending them and standing up for them outside the home, and
right,
then to encounter some mixed messages here.
it was very hard. Um,
Speak,
she
speak to,
always
speak to
had,
her.
yeah,
Speak
I
to her.
remember how hard it was,
Good. Yeah.
but I also remember that you knew that you would be going to college soon and you'd be going away and you wouldn't have to be dealing with all of this.
Yeah.
Um,
What does your 64-year-old understand about the father? What can you perspective can you offer her about father and mother and their context and their world?
um, as it is with me with Shannon,
Mm-hmm.
it's concerned if you're going down a different path. So there was a lot about so you've heard a lot about children and you know you've got a responsibility that if you have mixed race children you're going to be putting them through hell and all that stuff, and you have an intuitive knowledge that that's not going to happen. you know if I have my kids will be fine. Now seeing the transition that Shannon is going through, I understand my father a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So use that understanding to educate her.
so dad and mom are both trying to make sure that you are able to live the best life you can.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they don't have all the answers. There are
There you go.
people,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you'll find that out on your own when you have your first child. The minute its child is born, you'll know, oh, I've got a big responsibility here. And that's what mom and dad have too.
So it's challenging. It's hard. People don't do everything perfectly, and
Exactly.
they're driven by a desire to protect and a desire to make things easier
Right.
and to go along to get along sometimes is the way to do that. And these are really complicated issues.
Well, the other thing that I learned was my sense of humor was going to be my saving grace.
Mm-hmm.
And all through life, and my dad's like that. You know, I've grown to know that dad. I mean, I remember he was funny when we were growing up, sometimes not so funny, but um, now he's at a point where, oh, I drove through the driveway. That was the garage door. That was kind of dumb. And he just laughs. Whereas before he would have taken it a little bit more seriously.
Okay, so there's also giving her perspective that your parents go on, now, like, you think I'm old, you should see dad.
Yeah,
You should see how he is,
very
right? Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
There's
And
a
mom,
whole life trajectory here. Yeah.
right. And mom's still smoking her cigarettes.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
Okay. See if there's anything else. What about the Vietnam stuff?
oh yeah. Um,
From your 64-year-old perspective, what can you offer that 15-year-old in the midst of so many cultural revolutions in a way?
we were so scared. You were so scared that Jamie was going to either end up in Canada because he filed for conscientious objector status, which my father supported. Um, but the other part is, or he wouldn't have any choice and he would, it just depended on the lottery. And sure enough, he pulled a number like, or something like that. And the day before he would have been going, they stopped the draft.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So it's just
Came
so
down to the wire.
right. Um, and there's no way he could have survived.
So that, so that incredible tension and pressure and what is going to happen both collectively and individually to your family and your brother and you, just really be there for her about, I understand the incredible tension that you're under and the
Yeah.
worry. And I'm so sorry. You can tell her, because you have the benefit of hindsight here, that everything turns out okay.
And in that case, it did turn out okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's where we are in this case right now. Be with her because you legitimately know. Tell her it's going to be okay. Explain to her what happens.
Okay. So it is going to be okay. Just going to end just in time for Jamie to go on college and for less people dying, and things will be okay.
Okay. How does she respond?
Whatever you say. No. Just say, okay.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
All she
that,
can do is take your word for it. Yeah.
that's right. If you say so, I can just see the eyebrows going, okay, if you say so. And, I had learned how to hide things,
Hmm.
so I can do that.
Yep.
Oh, I know.
Okay. So just see, even though she can hide things, anything else, does she have any other yeah buts, right? Does she have anything else that's bothering her? Have we soothed it? We're going to also extend the rescue option to her.
Um,
All these agendas going on back at that time.
I just remember there was so much going on
Hmm.
individually with my dad and
Hmm.
everything.
Yeah, community wise, globally wise. Yeah, it was a very, very significant time.
Yeah. And I went to William Smith College, and my English professor thought I was going to Smith, which is a very different thing.
Mm. Yep.
Although mine was a coordinate college, and it was somewhat radical, but enough that it would sit under my dad and be okay. Uh, um,
So there's something about that, about the radicalism.
radicalism, and then the other thing is my female health was bad. I had endometriosis, but I didn't know that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also I was ready. You know, it was a hot little toddy. I could have slowed down just a little bit.
Okay,
Um,
let's go into that. Maybe there's some message there from your 64-year-old. What do you want to say to her around sexuality?
um, you have a basis where you feel that it has to be a very important person that you share this with, but you don't have to be so worried about ending up a virgin when you end up to college, because it's really not that big a deal. And that's
So it's all okay. It's all, that too is all going to work out, honey.
right.
Yeah.
You will take your pills every day. You know? So, and you will have lots of friends. So,
Because she also got that stuff like you're ugly and you're never gonna, nobody's gonna want to date you. Yeah. So they were of course wrong.
right.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So,
Good. Anything else you want to reassure her about? They were wrong. That was nonsense. There was other stuff going on. They were baiting you for other reasons.
and a big thing that was going on in high school was my father was well known. He's very successful, and people were jealous.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to school where everybody was the same,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then I hung out with all the financial aid people, but
Mm-hmm.
but so I
So
just
there was more things going on there. That wasn't, it wasn't about your looks, you know, or about your attractiveness or your appeal or your sexuality. I mean, that's what they used to get her, and it landed because, you know, we're doing this in Orphan Rescue now, so it obviously landed, right? So good. So we're getting to this layer to go, no, that was not true.
right.
Rest assured, that was not true.
And then the minute you take your first step on that campus, you're gonna feel a difference.
Okay. Okay, so I think that's we got the layers. So offer her the rescue. Does she want to stay on that timeline?
Or what move?
The options are she can stay on that timeline with this interaction that's just occurred. She can come along with us and we'll see. We still got a 3-year-old we got to go rescue.
Oh,
And then we'll eventually see where she ends up, but I can guarantee her that we will negotiate it till she ends up in a place that really suits her. Or maybe we just springboard her forward into college.
well, I do think we want to handle.
She needs to see the rescue with the 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So
and I take that to. I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going to take that.
don't worry. Don't worry. We'll
Okay.
figure it out once we do the 3-year-old.
Okay.
Sounds like she's going to hop on our Mary bandwagon here.
That's right.
Okay. So extend an arm, kind of half hug her up into the group, and you're going to take him forward. You're going to go find that 3-year-old who doesn't feel like she counts or matters. She's kind of that lost child, middle child. You guys go ahead into the childhood home. Ian's arrived with his crew, and we're going to demolish the old family home and the kitchen and where all that stuff occurred, so never to have to return to again.
And so now we're in a different house
Mm.
because we rented first, and it was like a farmhouse. There were two distinct things that I remember from my childhood there that were bad. One was I had a cat and it was going after a mouse, and I'm underneath a tree, and I tried to save the mouse, and the mouse bit me. And I was like, you know, in tears with my mom. I didn't understand. I was just trying to help the mouse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's that. But the other part that's the abandonment, I remember we would go up to New Jersey for holidays or whatever, and the three of us would be asleep in the back when we got home. So I was asleep, and Mom and Dad took Jamie and Carolyn first, and I woke up, and I'm all alone in the dark in the car, and I'm thinking I got left behind. You know, nobody's listening to me. Everybody forgot me. Da 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 da. that whole big stuff that as a 3-year-old is just big. You can't really put your finger on it. And then, of course, mom and dad came out. They found me crying. They were uh, certainly comforting me. And no, we didn't forget you. And so some of what I had to learn with that, there's one other instance where I'm sitting on top of the stairs and I'm crying, and they're telling me I can't come down the stairs until I'm crying, and then they start making fun of me. That sucked. And there was no getting around that sucked. So
you have multiple
right.
where various things are going on. I'm intrigued, all of them, but I'm getting my little cat drawn here. This one intrigues me too because of the symbolism. Cat
Right.
and mouse, right? So,
Right.
and kind of here you are trying to help the underdog and get bit by the underdog, right? There might be some symbolism there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Damn.
You learned a lesson early on.
Keep your hands out of their mouth. So what I would be saying to her in the car is that no, they haven't forgotten you. They would never forget you. And it's hard being a parent with 3 kids. You only have so many arms. So they did come back and get you, and you're okay. The mouse and that was an important lesson for me to learn, and I still learn that. So to the 3-year-old, there are parts of life that's like that, and you have to protect yourself from being hurt. And for the 3-year-old who's up crying, again, you were speaking the truth. They weren't listening to you, and they were making fun of you, and that wasn't right. But you're going to be old enough where you won't have to deal with that anymore. And you won't make your son sit on the stairs and being made fun of. But we don't need to put that part in.
How is she responding? And are you being gentle enough? This is a very tender, sweet part. So make sure you're hugging her and
yeah. Well, I am hugging her. And you know what? You did save the mouse.
Yeah, even though the mouse bit you, you still saved it. Interesting analogy. Mm-hmm.
You were able to save the mouse. The mouse may not have understood you, but you made that happen. And the car, I still remember that. Heartbreaking. They left me behind. I'm out in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but I do remember the feeling of comfort when my mother came out, and of course said, we weren't going to leave you by yourself. We're here to take care of you. So your parents still wanted to take care of you. It was easier when you were 3 than when you were 5 and you could talk back. But they just didn't realize you were so scared and all alone.
Yeah. So inside you is a little 3-year-old being triggered right now with what's going on in 2020. It triggers that remembrance of being left alone and having to deal with that all the dark by yourself, which
Right.
is core, right? It's a primal fear. It's terror.
Right.
And
And
you're rescuing that orphan and saying, I know it looked like that, and they're sorry, and I'm so sorry that that happened to you. And it came close to looking like you were going to have to do that, but thankfully you didn't.
right. Right.
That actually there are people who remembered you, who
Mhm.
love you, who care, who are capable, who are strong, and that you did not have to battle the dark yourself. You were not abandoned. You were not left alone, unable to look after yourself.
Well, and it's my 63-year-old memory with my father driving all the way down here to surprise me because he
Mm-hmm.
wanted me to know that I was loved and that he didn't know what to do about Sean, but he loved me.
Mm-hmm.
Then he said, I know what to do about John, but, and actually his, he said, just don't talk to him and he'll come around. Well, I said, well, I know he'll come around, but I don't know that I want him to come around. But anyway, but he was right, that's
So
exactly.
to this little 3-year-old, you can say, you know what, honey? Your daddy's there your whole life.
Exactly. Your daddy loves you.
In fact, he's still there now.
Well, he called me Tuesday, um, just to let me know that he said, I'm sorry you had to let your kitty cat go, but you did the right thing. And I
Mm.
just wanted you to know I felt for you. And
Mm.
the week before, or 2 weeks before, I just get rid of it.
So he's still himself. He still has mixed messages, right? Yeah.
Right.
And he's a human being. Parents are just people too. Yeah.
I'm going to have to take a break to go to the bathroom real quick.
Alrighty. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So we're right at the stage where let's check on the 3-year-old. I think everything that's been happening back and forth. Does she have any buts?
No,
Yeah, I
no.
think you dealt with various things. So cuddle her close.
3 is fun for mom and
Yes, 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 so sweet. Okay, we're going to start by bringing them all to 2020,
okay.
and then we'll see if they stay there or where they go. So you are going to bring that 3-year-old. I'm going to collapse the car and that dark night and that fear, and even the mouse and the cat kind of behind. And you're going to take them forward to the time and place of 2020. And I'm just doing this one on my own. Ian's like, you can handle that. There's no buildings. He only demolishes buildings. So I can take care of this. And
So,
so I'm collapsing down those scenes and they're just turning in on themselves like a little quantum soup, and poof, black hole, changing and morphing, never to return to again. You can't go back, 3-year-old, even if you wanted to, because this no longer exists, and that's okay and that's good and right as it should be. Now I'm flying along behind, and as you've brought the 3 of them into 2020 and showing them your fun home right there on the beach in the Carolinas.
and
And pardon me?
I'm independent.
Of course. Now they get to feel like, ooh, isn't this an interesting feel? Now you can create if it feels right, and maybe all 3 stay, or maybe just certain ones, but any of them want to stay in this time and place, and it's up to you too, Sue, right? Because you may or may not want to be housing orphans in 2020. So just feel, out of those three, does it make sense for them to stay here? And ask them as well. If so, you'll be creating an environment for them there, or whichever ones stay, and then we'll deal with the ones who go elsewhere.
Okay.
What's popping out?
The 12 to 18, some of the anxiety that I have, I mean, you've seen it in the class, and that
Yep.
she's, you know.
You've got a lot going on. So you're recovering from health stuff. You've got a relationship breakup that's in the past. You got a cat leaving. Yeah. And obviously the unrest that's going on in the world and COVID. Yeah. So the 12 to 8, the 15-year-old,
Yeah.
you got two of them. Not the right place for them?
Up here.
Let's bring in the future self, and because it'd be nice to have the future self to give her perspective. So
Yeah.
future self's aware of this all. So future self, we're asking you to come to Sue in 2020 to help with this placement of the orphans. And as she just shows up. Future self, you got 2 years on Sue. First off, is there anything you want to say to Sue? Given you got 2 years stretch, what are your soothing thoughts and perspective to Sue and to these orphans?
The same thing that everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
You've been able to weather quite a few storms.
Anything else you want to know, or what are your yeah buts to her?
Well, my yeah buts. Okay, so Shannon is a big yeah but.
What does she have to say about your son transitioning into a daughter? What does she say?
This sounds really, it doesn't really have anything negatively about you.
Okay.
It may be part of her respecting you and knowing that you're there, and the opposed position of her other parent.
Okay. So there's something complicated going on there.
Well, there's complicated going on in my head and in my heart, because I still
Go to the future self.
the future self is going to say she's in California, she's going to be just fine.
Okay, good. So take that in. So what else do you have yeah buts for future self?
My health.
Okay. What does future self say?
You have to make changes.
What changes?
I have gained an incredible amount of weight since I had the surgery. So I have to really get some exercise, walking. Obviously, I'm not going into a gym, but spending more time walking by the ocean. I do take people with me because sometimes things happen. So keep working on having exercising buddies, plus opening yourself up to more people being in your life.
Good. Thank you, future self. Anything else you want to say to your 2020 self?
Get your shit together.
Okay, good, good.
Get your shit together. You got it. Unload all the crap in your house.
Okay, good, good.
And get your office organized. And realize that you really are do the shifted course successfully. It's just changing. Yes, I am going to do it again. But I'm going to first, I'm going to learn this computer.
Mhm.
So, and this is something that I probably haven't addressed in all of this. I've always had processing problems. I could do the geography, I could do the history, I could do the English. Throw the math at me, throw the science at me, but especially math. And sometimes I just didn't, it takes a while for me to get it. Once I have it, I'm great. Or on the other side, I'm very intuitive and I have it right away. So
What does she tell you about this?
you have to realize that you've had a hell of a lot of stress and that stress is going down and you are going to be able to learn this and realize how much you enjoy working with people.
Mm.
And I mean, I do. And I know I can do this stuff on the video I have no problem there. It's just doing what this other part that I want to do and I need to do.
Okay, good. So she's just saying you're going to get there, get your shit together, do this. Realize there was a whole bunch of stuff going on previously about why it was understandably a challenge to do it. And as the stress drops down and your health comes up, that you'll be able to do this, and that's a good thing for you. That it
Right.
allows you to contribute, it allows you to work with the population you like to work with and do your thing. And, you know, there was a time where you thought you were having to get your life in order, your affairs in order, because you were going to be dying. And so she's like, no, we're all going to die. It's down the road, but it's not as soon as you were thinking it was. So now she's like, get your crap together, get your shit together. She's like, we did some stuff here in these 2 years, like, and it's
Yeah.
dependent on you doing these things. Good. Are there any other yeah buts you have for the future self? You're worried about COVID and how people are behaving and the violence going on and the masks, no mask thing. What does that future self say to you?
You can take care of yourself. You know, you can control your health issues, meaning as it's related to COVID.
Yeah.
You can
So it
just,
doesn't really matter what other people are doing.
right. And you know, the trip to, I don't know if I told you about a trip to Italy that my dad was trying to do.
Right.
That's done.
Yeah.
And that took away a whole lot of stuff that I didn't have to worry about. So it's you know, so things do work out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they may not always be to your liking. Obviously, Sophie was just not to my liking.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the hardest stuff works out. You don't have to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what she's saying in this situation too, right? Where so much of us, it's out of our capacity to handle it all because it's a mass collective thing. And it's like, okay, you do the bit that you can. You can look after your own health. There are things that you can do to take control of, that you do have control of, do them. And these other things are going to work out. There's a bigger thing going on. It's not one's responsibility. And this future self is showing you some other things that actually did too. So it's hard to have the faith and to let go. But she's telling you that.
Um,
Anything else you want to get across, future self? You two can collaborate and have telepathy at any time, but we're on a roll here, so.
the violence, what I'm finding with Trump is that he's like a petulant little kid. And other people are starting to see, I mean, people that were backing him are kind of starting to open their eyes. So there is a possibility that we won't be going through this in a year when
Go to the future self. What does the
he's
future
out of
self say?
office. We won't have to deal with this. And when I'm 66, this is not going to be happening. What's happening now will not be happening then.
Okay.
Because,
So you're right in the smuck of it right now. So.
And there's enough people who are becoming enlightened or being hurt, in these two young girls that I'm talking about that are afraid.
Go to the future self.
Future self.
Yeah. In fact, I want you to channel her, because sometimes it gets a little confusing. I think you're being 64-year-old self. So go to 66-year-old self and inhabit her body and become her and have her speak to you.
It's okay. Life is okay. It's different. And that's a good thing, because now we're prepared. And perhaps, I'm just trying to think.
Nope, don't think. Be.
Okay. The earth is in a better place because it's healthier.
Mm-hmm.
Families, everybody are learning over to take the simple life on. And you'll have a new buddy. And hopefully it's a male.
Well, she's there. What does she say?
You have a new buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it will be a fun relationship. It's not going to cost you anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a fun relationship. And because you like to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
So hold on to the kites because you're going to need them. And the bubbles.
Great. Okay, good, good. What a
Um,
nice way to end. Hold on to the kites and bubbles.
and you will also be doing your coaching the way that you want it and making a difference. So I will be coaching. I am coaching and making a difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And working it in so that I can survive.
Mm-hmm.
Get beyond survival. Now, I had dreams of going on cruises and stuff like that. I don't want to do that anymore.
Right. Well, just see her. What does she say about that?
Get the sailboat.
Okay. So cruising, just a little different. So good. Excellent.
You know?
Okay. And while you're in there, any final words? What else? Anything else that she wants to say to complete, knowing you and she can interact at any time? Which of the orphans is she taking? She taking those 15-year-olds?
No, she's not taking any of them.
Okay. They're going to stay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're going to have this lifeline and connection to her that's going to help all three of you in 2020. Okay. And so go about creating bedrooms for all three of them.
Okay. No, I got confused.
Mm.
I think the one I take is a 3-year-old because that's the one that's most internally, except for the part of my parents. Okay, so at 66, I can say I have resolved issues with my parents.
Just check to see if that's true. You might need an older one.
Maybe 68.
Just see if there's a future self.
I think about 68.
68. Okay, another 2 years makes a difference.
Yeah, we know what color your hair is at that point.
It'll be a beautiful color. Yeah.
Thank you. But I think where we had 12 to 18 and 3.
Let's
right?
just call them 15. You got two 15-year-olds
Okay.
and a 3-year-old.
Okay.
The 15-year-olds are with one and the 3-year-old is with another. What I'm confused by, I can't tell which one. I think the 3-year-old goes with you
Right.
at 64. And I think the other two go with your future self because they get a little triggered given they went through all the civil rights stuff.
Right.
So they're a little triggered being around the stuff in 2020.
So,
So they're better to be out there where things are a little more, they're different, but they're okay. Healthier, simpler life. Their nervous systems are better there.
right.
And there's something that you can take on the parenting job. In fact, you probably should at 64. And you got the help of your two future selves here. You got tons of future selves, but the ones who've shown up here is 66 and 68, that they're going to help you. They're going to help you be the parent, take over the mom and dad role for that little 3-year-old.
Okay.
And we'll check because it's a job to do this in the midst of 2020, but it sounds like that's what's emerging here is that with all this stuff going on, you're realizing it's your little 3-year-old. So now's the time to do the inner work of taking over that parenting job. And using the stimulus of 2020 to recognize every time that little sweet little one in there is thinking that she's going to be left alone and abandoned, that no, you be there for her.
Right. Right. I do see that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a spiritual undertaking. Yeah. That's a spiritual quest. And right now it's a theme for you because you're having to look after yourself. All these health changes that the future self's kicking your butt on.
Right.
And you taking over the job of parenting the young orphan, now's the time.
Right. And Sophie, I have
right.
focus. I don't have to, I mean, it's not that Sophie was taking anything away except the last 3 weeks, but you know what I mean?
Well, it gives you something to do with your nurturing energy. Right, because your cat's there on the non-physical, but it's very different. I mean, it's a different relationship, and that love and that comfort, right? This is where you can put that energy is as you're out and about in your life in 2020, and you recognize where the child is getting triggered, that you nurture the child, you reassure her. You tell her, I'm right here. I'm not leaving you. You're not left alone. There's people who love you. There's people who's going to care about you, right? Because she's scared, right? Mm-hmm. And as you're watching the news or different things are happening, and also the storytelling that's going on in one's head, we all do it. Well, it's also the opportunity to grow yourself and to look after the orphan instead of the orphan being left alone and bopping around by every little thing that happens on the news or world events or local events. Yeah.
Well, it's so easy before to turn the news off, you know, and it didn't have all this little stuff sneaking. I mean, now I purposely
Well, now is because the 15-year-olds in particular, right? It's the 3-year-old and the 15-year-old. I'm not convinced. The 3-year-old may need to go to the future self too, but I'm just gonna, because it might just be too much with everything that you got going on with making your health changes to actually also nurture the orphan, because it's going to really require walking your talk, right? I mean, here you're talking coaching and making a difference. In order to do that, maybe it is they stay where they are, because this is really something you need to tackle. You need to master,
Right.
right? Is the nurturing of the orphan.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask future self, where does this 3-year-old orphan go?
I think she probably does go to 68.
Okay. That's why the 68 has shown up. Okay, we're going to trust that. Okay, yeah. Okay, sweetheart. So they all love you, all the different accents to Sue. They're fighting over you. So, but we've now determined, finally, the proper home is the future self at 68.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that one has the consciousness because of everything she's gone through from 2021 to 22, 23, 24, all these years, you have integrated and grown up, and I don't say that in a derogatory way. This is the spiritual quest for all of us in this incarnation, is to grow ourselves up. And boy, is this period giving us the opportunity to grow ourselves up. And apparently you've done it, because your 68-year-old self is capable of housing the 3-year-old, and that's only 4 years away.
Right.
Normally orphans have to go to a much longer stretch of consciousness for the future self, so yours is only 4 years away. Yay. Okay, so the future self swooping in, taking up the sweet little 3-year-old, everybody accompanying her. We're taking her to the home of the 68-year-old, so she knows that she's loved and she's with. We're all accompanying her and setting up a sweet little room. What does that 3-year-old want?
Play pals.
Okay, that can be arranged.
Um, and just comfort.
Yeah.
But playmates is probably what I'm trying to say. Playmates, um, who will appreciate the child in her.
Well, she is a child. There's no appreciating. She's a 3-year-old. So the 3-year-old will be given playmates and comfort.
Right.
Yeah.
So and she'll know that people are listening to her.
Yes, exactly. Excellent. So here's the 68. We're going to put her in here. And the little 3-year-old, we're going to just draw a line. The 3-year-old goes here to the 68-year-old. And the 15-year-olds go to the 64-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, they go to the 66-year-old. There they go. Yeah. And so that's good. So you got the adolescents are with 2 years stretch of time, and the child is with 4 years. And she's got a beautiful little sweet room for herself. She's got the undivided attention of the future self. She's got playmates. She's got oodles of comfort.
She's got the ocean.
Ah, good. The ocean, lovely. And the future self is totally capable of providing whatever that little sweet one needs. And all the other aspects of yourselves can also go to that place of the 68-year-old whenever they need support and love and stability and a wise woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's right there welcoming all those different aspects of herself with open arms. Yeah. She's the one who's able to coach and make a difference, not only to outsiders, but to all her insiders. Okay, thank the future self. Future self, anything you want to say to everybody?
I love you.
Ah, yeah. We love you right back. Okay. So knowing you can come back to the 68-year-old at any time, uh, the orphan stays there. Anybody else who wants to stay is welcome to. And you're going to bring your own consciousness back to 64, knowing that your adolescents are taken care of, the child is taken care of, that you have these different future selves. You have a whole string of support to assist you as you go back to 2020 and make your health changes. And knowing that you are not alone, you're with.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel?
Better. Less stressed.
What's the opposite of stress?
Comfort. um,
Good. So more comfort. Yay.
uh, I'm in. I am inspired, but that's not the word that I'm looking for. I'm comfortable with myself that I'll be able to address some of these issues, these big issues.
Okay, good. Now we're going to do one final thing because you're already doing it. I can tell in your comments, which is now we're going to come back full circle, right? We just did a very thorough, multi-leveled rescue here. Sue, 64-year-old Sue, well done. Whew. Let's first recognize everything you just did, right? And yeah, and let's say to the left brain, right brain, the right brain's got it, right? This has been done, this has been accomplished, it's off and running. You have very capable future self and future self. They got it, it's done. Now your 64-year-old self will also talk to the left brain because she's also, you know, coaching, training with all this stuff and everything, right? So it's like, yeah, okay, left brain, phew, you come in with certain presenting issues, we figure out what to do, we did it. The brilliance of your multidimensional self just did it. And now we kind of go back to the left brain to say, okay, left brain, first off, we have to negotiate. Can you just give us some wait and see? The proof is in the pudding. With this right brain stuff, it's not necessarily always a linear logical kind of process. So give some time, see what unfolds, left brain. Left brain, you're also probably going to be able to make some connecting of the dots. So left brain, what do you see here? I see a whole lot going on, understandably. The now situation reminded you so much of the earlier situation with the civil rights movement and the stuff going on in the home, right? That's the last time collectively and individually we experienced such intensity of emotions and racial issues and violence and the potential for more violence and what's going to happen. Also with Vietnam and your brother with the potential of death of close ones. How is it going to impact yourself? So understandably so, left brain, that there was a whole lot going on about why Sue in 2020 was getting triggered and charged by the situation. Anybody would be triggered and charged, but particularly when you have all these things that are connected. So it doesn't mean that it takes it all away, but it certainly deals with certain layers so that in 2020, you can be coming at it without the added triggers and charges, or at least more consciousness of them, right? And doing the work of housing the various orphans is going to help because they're looked after in a different way, which kind of cleans them out so that you can deal with 2020 as it is, as opposed to all the other complicated layers that were going on. Yeah.
Well, and the fact that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
No, it's it's going to be okay.
You could feel it. You could feel that.
Switch.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you the feeling place of that. Yeah. And that's a hard thing for anybody watching. You just have to go through your own orphan rescue to feel those places where it clicks for you. It's not, again, a left brain thing. This is more in the spiritual, emotional terrain. But when things click, they click. It's quite remarkable. So I'm glad you're even your left brain is saying, well, I did feel a click there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else to say from the left brain perspective on bringing you back to the now situation?
You've always been able to rely on yourself, and you can still do that.
Mm-hmm.
Your judgment is generally good.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're aware of what you need to look out for, or avoid. Um, and you can stand strong in saying, this is what I'll accept, and this is what I will not accept.
Yeah.
So, and I can still leave the TV off
Mm-hmm.
until something changes.
Yeah.
Until something changes. That's really good, Chris.
It's a pleasure to do. Thank you.
You.
It's fascinating to get to work with people from all over, but to work with you and that Southern American perspective and history. Yeah. Yeah.
Which I
Yeah.
didn't know I was walking into.
Yeah, well, this is very educational, not only for you, but for other people too, right? And I hope to work with more and more people from different perspectives and diverse backgrounds to see what's underneath, right?
Right.
What's underneath the surface, and why we get triggered, understandably, by certain specific things. There's enough for everybody in this current situation, right? And it's, thank you. It's fascinating and a pleasure to hold space, and it's teaching me in the process. So it's an honor. Thank you.
Oh, for me too.
Hey, anything you want to say to close?
Thank you. Um, and this was an amazing experience for both of us.
Mm, yeah.
And I think JJ and Sophie are hanging right around the corners.
Yeah, absolutely. Offering us comfort. Yeah.
And a little sassiness on the side.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a little spunky characters. Yeah.